Did someone say something to me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I mean, I heard someone say something, but I can't. Okay, that's good. It's muted too. Just no thanks. Let me just close that. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Thanks everyone for showing up. This is I thought we just ramp up to Disability Pride Month, which is literally less than a week away, like a couple of days away. It'll start. So I thought we should have a discussion about something that's so important to disabled people, which is accessibility. And so I just wanted, I have some, like Vicky's about to come in, but Sean and Cassie, I invited them to kind of, talk about accessibility and their experiences with it. And, and anyone else is also welcome to share. These are just people I invited specifically, but of course we all have experience with this. So, and it's all very important. So, so yeah, I just wanted to welcome everyone and thanks for showing up. And I don't know, I was like dealing with family stuff, so I'm like, oh gosh, what am I? I was like, you're distracting. I guess I'll start about my experience with disability. Um, I had a spinal cord injury in 1999, and before that, I was in a DIY band. And for those that don't know what that means, DIY is do it yourself. That's what it stands with. And there's TV shows about fixing houses, all kinds of stuff. DIY is used for a lot of things. But for me, it's a community that I was a part of all through the 90s. And we toured, and it was a network of bands and artists that just connected. And it was before the internet like played a role in that. And I was always drawn to it because it is about community. It's not about having money or having a corporation come in and pay for something. It was about a community working it out. And that community actually extended across this entire country. So then after I had my spinal cord injury, I decided I wanted to go back into the scene. It took me about 2 years to kind of adjust, to what it was to be disabled. And I realized I could pretty much do everything that I wanted to do with my disability. So I wanted to go back into the scene. And then I very quickly realized how inaccessible everything was. And I actually didn't feel comfortable talking about it because I felt I needed to live as a disabled person longer before I started speaking out about it. So I wanted to have experience as a disabled person to be able to speak about what it was like to be disabled in the specific community that I was a part of, and then just the community that I live in. So, about 10 years went by, I started DIYabled, and I started speaking out. And while things didn't change immediately, one of the things I'm really happy to see is that my DIY music community is listening. They are listening and they're paying attention, because a couple of people have reached out even during the pandemic about talking about how they have made, been able to make things accessible. So I don't know, that made me so happy when they were like reaching out to me and telling me like, oh, hi, Freddie, welcome. Good to see you. How, how they were actually thinking about something they hadn't thought about. And I also try to express myself without anger and without making people feel guilty, because I didn't realize when I wasn't disabled. So if I didn't realize, then I can't expect other people to realize without being told. And that's my opinion. That's my perspective on that, of course. And Jenny, I see you raised your hand, so I'll let you speak, and then we'll move on to Sean and Cassie. And so that's my experience, and we'll talk about later what things we've done to figure out how we are a part of things without
I,
the accessibility there. Okay, go ahead, Jenny. Sorry about that.
no, it's okay. I was just wondering if you could say what can you hear me okay? Hopefully I'm audible. Um I yeah, so I just wondered did your injury begin in was it young adulthood? Was it adult or juvenile age? That's all I wanted to say. So you can continue if you can hear me. Great. Oh no. Oh, I think it's your
Priya, you're on mute.
I muted myself. I usually don't mute myself, and I always forget to unmute myself. Thank you, Freddie. Freddie's usually my assistant. This is the first time Freddie and I have seen each other in a long time, so it's really good to see him. I was 29 when I had my injury, and I kind of processed it in my mind because like people are like, you're so positive and all this stuff. And I don't know, I feel like I'm like that because I feel like I had already kind of decided what I was and how I identified as a person. I kind of gotten past the insecurity of being young and trying to figure out where I fit in. And also, I think because I kind of also had a mother who was disabled, so I should say that. My mom had rheumatoid arthritis. So my entire life was us just doing things, and my father assisted. And when my brother and I were older, we also assisted. So that, and then also I had a family that was very supportive and told me I could do whatever I wanted to do, even though I had become disabled. And the other thing, I realized I could do what I love to do as a disabled person, that I had enough ability to do what I wanted to do. So I think all of those things combined, I do have a positive attitude about being disabled, where a lot of people, when they become disabled later in life, it's described as grieving, which I do understand. So thank you, Jenny. I don't know. I talk too much already. All right. So anyway, who wants to go? Sean or Cassie? You want to go, Sean? Go ahead. So Sean is going to type oh, there's a message. Okay. Oh, sorry. Freddie, can I make you a co-host? Can I make you a co-host? Is that okay, Freddie? I'm going to make you a co-host so you can help me with these comments. All right. So Sean says, my name is Sean Gold. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I am an indie author, public speaker, president of disability nonprofit, and still trying to be a web designer eventually. That's been on hold for a while now, but I do have one Microsoft certification. I have a TED talk about disability rights as well. My disability is cerebral palsy and a tracheotomy breathing tube. Thank you, Sean, for sharing that. So I want to ask you, Sean, do you want to share your experience with accessibility because of your tracheotomy, you are nonverbal, and so I would love for you to share that experience. And I know you have to type it in. So in the meantime, Zoe, I saw you raised your hand. What do you
I
have?
just joined, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I saw you come in. What's up, Zoe? Hi.
I just wanted to introduce myself to new. Is there anybody else new?
Um, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, is anyone new to you here? I don't think so, but if you want
Cassidy, have you been before?
No, Cassie is new.
Welcome. Can you ask her to introduce herself really quick? Because I have really bad memory.
Yeah, sure. While Sean's typing, why don't you introduce yourself, Cassie?
Hi, I'm Cassie. I live in Oregon and I've been disabled my whole life. I have a form of dwarfism, so I'm really short and I had a lot of surgeries growing up. So I can like walk around the house in short distances and stuff, but otherwise I use a wheelchair when I go out places. So
Can I?
Thank you, Cassie. What did you want to say, Zoe?
I just wanted to say hi to Jenny L. She's cool.
Okay,
She
cool.
doesn't even know I'm here.
I think she probably does. Maybe she does. I don't know. But now
Jenny, are
she
you
did.
here? Jenny, are you there?
I think she's here, but I don't, you know,
I'll
She has-
message her.
yeah, if you want to, that's cool. Thank you,
I
Zoe.
just did. I just did, Priya.
Cool.
So can I share a little bit about myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was born in Portland, Oregon, in case you guys didn't know. And my little sister is moving to Washington, D.C. In a couple of weeks. And I'm gonna miss her so much.
Oh yeah, I understand that. That's kind of far away, so I get that.
Does anybody have any advice?
maybe you'll be able to go visit her in Washington, D.C., and that'll be so fun
Yeah, does anybody have any advice for me?
to deal with the emotion of your sister
Yeah.
leaving.
Yeah.
Um,
Molly, do you have any advice? Molly M.
I don't know if Molly wants to speak, so I would just say stay in touch with your sister and find things to keep yourself busy so you don't get sad.
I've been working, and I'm really gonna miss her so much, Priya.
I'm sorry to hear that, Zoe. Molly wrote in the chat, I am listening, but she can't talk right now. So
Can I read what Sean said?
Well, since I'm hosting the meeting, I'm going to do that. I would like you to mute your mic so I can read what Sean said. And
I have to get back to another meeting, but what time does this go until?
Okay, you live on the West Coast, so let's say 4:30. I don't know if I did that.
3:30?
4:30-ish, yeah.
You mean 3:30, right?
I don't know. I'm kind of. I can't. But yeah, it's 6:30 East Coast time, so Google it and look up what the difference is. Sorry, it was hard for me to do the math that quickly. Sorry.
Okay.
But thanks for coming, Zoe. Okay, so Sean says, thanks, Molly. She left, but she'll figure it out, I'm sure. Okay, so Sean says, yes, having a trach and CP basically means I am unable to do anything on my own for safety. My airway was collapsed when I was born, so I got this trach at 1.5 years old. So this is all I know. Thanks, Sean. I understand that. So I know Sean is an author and he's a very smart person. And so like being nonverbal, and being nonverbal, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Would you want to share like how, just how like being nonverbal, like access wise education, just doing meetings like this, everything like, please share your experience as much as you can. I know you're writing, but I'm going to go to Cassie because I really want her to talk about half access, and we'll just keep going back and forth with Sean, and that will be cool. Go ahead, Cassie. Please share with us.
Yeah, so I started my nonprofit called Half Access when I was 18. So that was in 2017. Like Priya, I very much grew up in the music scene, and that's where I made a lot of my friends and just like really found something that I was passionate about and a community to be part of. And, you know, when I first started going to shows, um, nobody would like point out like, oh, here's where you can like be to like be safe and watch the show. Like there was no like accessible areas, or I would end up having to get out of my wheelchair and like climb upstairs to get into spaces. And so after I had like a pretty intense back surgery, I started caring more about my safety and realizing that I couldn't just keep going on how I was. And so I started speaking up and asking venues for better access. And they were all kind of like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I don't have like the knowledge or like the experience like to provide accessibility. And then I started talking about my experiences more and realized other people were dealing with the same thing all over the world, and decided to start Half Access to work on encouraging venues to be more accessible. So, yeah.
Thanks so much, Cassie. And I actually attended a meeting. Cassie is hosting a series for the summer. Oh God, I forgot. I had it in my head. But go ahead and you tell them, Cassie. It's your event. So.
Yeah, so it just started yesterday. We're having panels the last Saturday of June, July, and August. And so the first one was yesterday, and it was just kind of an accessibility 101. So we had like a couple disabled music fans, a couple like musicians, and like people who work in the music industry who are all disabled to like share their experiences. And it was really honestly like so interesting to hear like everyone's different experiences and how it varied based on age or how they were raised and things like that. And then next month we have one that is all disabled musicians, which I'm really excited about because it's like the representation I always wish I had growing up. And then the one in August is all disabled fans. So yeah, just really hoping to open up the conversation more and get people thinking about it as shows start to come back this fall.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, because when I took part of that meeting, it was like, a panel of disabled people. And I felt like the disabled people on the panel were like, kind of like, oh man, kind of listening to each other and kind of learning what everybody else does and kind of thinking like, oh, I need to do that. So it was just like I felt like it was a great learning experience for everyone on the panel and then whoever was watching too. So it was really great. Vicky, did you want to say anything or no pressure?
Hold on. I was like, where's all my butt? Yeah, I want to kind of go back to Cassie's point about there not being a lot of disabled representation, like as you're growing up. I'm entering the law field here in like 8 weeks, I think, until classes start. And there's like less than 1% of all lawyers and law students are disabled. And like for my specific disabilities, it's like under 0.5% or some ridiculously low BS like that. And in diversity scholarships, you're not even mentioned in there. Like they list all of the underrepresented groups and you will not find disability on there. I've applied for a couple of different like mentorships and they were like, oh, but you're disabled. Why are you going to law school? I was like, because I can. Like I got in, so I don't know why. But yeah, that's as I'm kind of like learning more about the lack of disability diversity in the legal field in general. I'm learning like we definitely need more representation. Like I would not have thought I would be able to go to law school at all as a disabled person. Now I'm like, oh, I am, but this is gonna suck. Mainly because there's no other like representation, or there's very limited representation in the legal field. There are some law schools that have maybe had 1 or 2 disabled people ever at their schools. So it's kind of like paving the way a little bit, but also in a terrifying you might flunk out merely because you're disabled, and they're going to see all your professors are going to see your accommodations form. And like, I've heard horror stories of disabled law students being treated differently in classes because of that accommodations form.
Yeah. I mean, so, disability, like, the accessibility is just like an issue everywhere, like Cassie and I are in band, music, and I'm in a band. So like, that's kind of where we find the inaccessibility, and that's where so yeah, inaccessibility is a huge problem everywhere. I'm going to read what Sean says, and then I'm going to call on you, Jenny. So Sean says, being nonverbal has its disadvantages. I consider myself universally nonverbal because until you're around me enough, you won't understand my words. And even then, it's still challenging to understand. And I realize when I replay videos of myself, and I'll have no clue what I said. I tried various communication devices as I grew up. I needed more, so now I use my phone. Cool. And so, Sean, feel free to answer this question. So do you feel technology has helped you, like the progression of technology? And now, like during the pandemic, technology is like really zipping to accommodate non-disabled people. So let me know about that. And Jenny, go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
Hi, I am here.
Hi.
I was listening, but I wasn't in reach of the device. And
Okay.
yeah, I just was sort of adding a quick comment to what I was hearing Vicky share. I entered post-secondary back in '92 and withdrew the following year, into the following year. So in terms of formal education, I don't know if you can imagine what the scene was like back in '92, but like it wasn't even as rolled out as you're talking about it right now, with with awareness. And I missed a little bit of what Cassie was saying, but I'm definitely here for all the panel. And I'm just not sure like if I'm tracking very well, but that came to mind when I was listening to Vicky share experience. I guess, was it on representation or sorry.
That's okay. Are you talking about what Cassie was talking about, or is that what you meant?
Yeah, like the
Cassie was just sharing her experience.
We're talking about accessibility. But
yeah, Cassie was just sharing her experience about wanting to go to see bands and the inaccessibility and how people are just ignorant about it. So she started a nonprofit called Half Access as a resource to let people know about venue accessibility. So that's what Cassie was talking about. I'm going to read Sean and Marguerite. Marguerite, welcome. Yes. I'm sorry I didn't welcome you. Sean said, thank you, Jenny. Was there anything else you wanted to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just was saying that I think I did briefly see about Half Access, where it's on the posted on the internet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks. And they're actually a nonprofit. So if you're interested in venues and accessibility, I suggest to go there and check that out. And she's also having a panel on the last Saturday of July and August, and she just had one in June. And it's about accessibility in the music industry. So if you want to attend that, follow their social medias and stuff and sign up for their webinars. Okay, so Sean says, I hate this pandemic, but I do not want online accessibility to ever go away. And I think everyone on this panel can totally agree with that. Marguerite gives a thumbs up. And Marguerite says, yes, this is why we all need to make sure we push for accessibility across all disabilities. And yes, I agree with that, Marguerite. So yeah, about the online accessibility, I think one of the things we have, the pandemic is horrible, of course, as Sean said, we don't want people to get sick or die. But what I think we have learned from the pandemic is that we can do things differently. We can, through the pandemic, I met with my doctor through a tele-access thing, and I loved it. I was like, oh my God, so great. I don't have to drive to the doctor's office to talk about something that the doctor didn't really need to see me physically for. And then music, Cassie and I have talked about music, having online components for music. My cousin is getting married in August. I told my aunt, you should have an online component for people that don't feel comfortable to travel during the pandemic. So all kinds of things. Does anyone else have suggestions, other things that they would like to see online accessibility for, just besides the couple of things I've mentioned? Let's see. Marguerite says, find ways to communicate online. Yes. And Jenny, I don't know who raised their hand first, but I'll call on Jenny, and then Cassie, you could go afterwards. Sean says
thanks.
online concerts. Sean said that, but go ahead, Jenny. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I was going to say court, holding court, like quote unquote justice system.
Oh yeah, legal stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Cassie, go ahead.
Yeah, I think just in general, like meetings being online has been so helpful for me because like I live in kind of a rural area, and so stuff that I normally would have had to drive 40 minutes to participate in is now like I can do from my bedroom. And so it's allowed me to connect with like other like community organizing efforts just right from home, which has been really, really great.
Yeah. And I think that kind of stuff is so great for not even just disabled people. Like, you live in a rural area. So, if people live in a rural area and they want to see a performance or a band or something that's on Broadway, or I don't know, just something that's happening that you can't really see because you live where you live, it's such a helpful thing. So yeah. And meetings, and yeah, it just makes everything easier, not just for disabled people, but everybody. So it's part of universal design. Vicky, right, Vicky? Yes, okay. Okay, so Marguerite says, this is easy when you have internet issues. Oh, this is easy when, I don't know what you're trying to say. This is easy when you do not have internet issues. Oh, this is easy when you do not have internet issues. All right, it always takes me a second to figure it out, but I do. And so I always say patience is an accessibility trait, people. I'm learning it, and we all need to learn it. Okay, so that was a bit preachy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be preachy. So Jenny says a thumbs up. Thanks, Jenny. Freddie and Marguerite, Marguerite, you have shared through the chat, but Freddie, are there any, do you want to talk about your experiences with accessibility? And
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I was just going to observe because I haven't been on Zoom meetings in a while, but since Priya put me on the spot, as usual.
calling on everyone, Freddie, not just you. I called on Vicky and Jenny and Marguerite, and I'm going to see.
I feel like the internet is a really good thing because, like, it's helped me connect with you guys, and also it gives me an opportunity to do other things besides just watching TV and twiddling my thumbs, where I'm able to volunteer for an organization and, to keep my mind busy and not just have idle thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Freddie, because it's true, because I think people kind of, when you tell people you're disabled, they, for some reason, I don't know why, they mentally connect that you don't have a mind, that you don't need to keep your mind busy somehow. And, when you can't keep your mind busy, it leads to depression. And that's like a huge problem in the disability community, depression. And so, accessibility is something that's so important for disabled people, just for that alone, letting us be in the world like everyone else. And Sean says, I do not know the definition of patience. Oh, Sean. That's because you're young. You're a young boy. You're kind of nothing. Marguerite says, I had my share of them when it comes to service dog laws. With accessibility, you mean, Marguerite? Yeah. So Marguerite uses a service dog, and she's had a lot of issues with accessibility and having her dog. And I'm going to share a story with you, Marguerite. My cousin is getting married, and I literally had to have this discussion with my aunt, because my dog is a service dog as well. And she was like, oh, you can't bring the dog. I was like, no, I can. She's like, no, you can't. I was like, yes, I can. Legally, I can bring the dog. It's a service dog. So I had to kind of argue with my aunt, who like reads all the stuff I do. But still, like, even then, I mean, I don't like to use, I mean, I know what ableism is, but I also don't like to use it in the way to like call someone out. So, but these ableist ideas that we have in our communities and society, it's hard to kind of see it, it's hard to get past it for some reason. So, and I honestly think it's because it's just the way we've treated, I don't know, I feel like we've treated disabled people like this since the beginning. Not since the beginning, because I do think in tribal things, there's been, as long as you were able to do something, whatever it was, make goals, get water, you could contribute to that tribe somehow. Your disability you weren't like pushed outside or isolated from that community because of that. But in this time, that was like way long ago, but right now, 2021, disabled people are being isolated because people are not recognizing the way they've been trained about disability. They have to change the way they're seeing things. And so that's a hard thing to do. So, and Cassie and I have actually talked about disability justice is young. The ADA is about, 31 years old this year. So it's like a younger, a younger adult in its 30s. It can drink, it can vote, it can go to the military, but it cannot, it's not as old as other justices, let's just say, like for race and gender and so on. Did you want to say something? Oh, you wrote something in the chat. Is that what I don't see? Why don't you use it? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm sorry, I lost track of my mind. But Marguerite says, choose one or another not to go. Setback with disability. Yeah, and like even in this discussion yesterday that Cassie had, woman there was like saying how she would like to go see a band, but she just doesn't go because of the lack of accessibility and understanding. She just doesn't go. And I don't know, I think that's, the word ableism. No, I just don't like to use words that everybody uses to like make people feel guilty for what they're doing, but I do use it on occasion. I just don't use it all the time. That's all. I just have, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm older, or I don't know. I don't know what my problem is, Sean, but I got some issues with that. I just don't like to be like, you're ableist, because I think we were trained to be ableist. I think some disabled people are even ableist because they don't, they've been trained that they don't fit into the world because they're disabled. So that's the reason I don't like to use it all the time. But I do use it. Maybe I just have no filter. Well, yes, that is true, Sean. You have no filter. But thank you for coming. No, I love it. I love you, Sean. I think it's awesome. I love, I love what you have to say. So are there any other things anybody would like to talk about? I was hoping I don't know where Chris Blackstone was because he's blind. So I really wanted him to share his experiences, but I don't know, maybe he got busy and that's okay. So I guess I will talk about things about accessibility. We need to think about closed captioning for one. That is something I actually learned about last year because I was doing an event and I was trying to get closed captioning, and I was so irritated at how hard it was to get closed captioning. And right now, currently, maybe Vicky can talk about this a little, but Google has like created closed captioning in the Google Meet. I forget what it's called now, Google Meet or something. And Zoom has added closed captioning, but it costs money. But it costs money, unfortunately, to get Zoom closed captioning. So I just feel as part of the ADA, I think closed captioning should not cost people money, or if it does cost someone money, I think Zoom should pay the money, not us. So that's my opinion on that. Go ahead, Marguerite. Are you talking? Oh, there you go. Okay, good.
Google Meet is free,
Right.
but if you go online and look up closed captions, it will pop up the free closed caption, but you got to be able to do it for, for, for 1 hour. It's free, but if you go over the hour, you have to pay. Only Zoom, which is they are breaking the law because it was supposed to be free.
There's no law that says closed captioning services must be free. They must be provided legally, but they do not have to be free. Companies can and legally are allowed to charge for captioning, especially captioning run by a person, like someone who live types live transcription, because you have to pay people for their labor. Hence why there is no law banning paid closed captioning services, or putting closed captioning services like on Zoom behind a paywall. Zoom making people charge for accessibility is complete BS, but there is no
Yeah.
law against it at this time.
Which
Yeah,
is,
but
go ahead, Marguerite, sorry.
but we need to make sure that that it is because accessibility across the board needs to be in the law.
Yeah, I agree. Marguerite said that
Thank
accessibility.
you, Jenny.
Oh yeah,
Thank you, Vicky.
thank you, Marguerite. Yeah, and what Marguerite was saying was that accessibility does need to be included in the law, and I agree with Marguerite because I was talking to a common friend we all have, Pauline, and she said, "Yeah, I feel sorry for people that are hard of hearing or deaf, because imagine if we had to bring a ramp. We both, me and Pauline both use wheelchairs. She goes, imagine if you had to bring a ramp everywhere you went. It's like, it's so, so yeah, I agree. The law needs to change on that. And so we need to figure that out. So yeah, more work needs to be done, obviously, right? Sean says YouTube has automated closed captioning, but content creators never remember to edit them. I don't need them, but lately I've noticed just how wrong the auto-generated ones are. Yeah, and I don't need closed captioning, but I have closed captioning on everything I watch because I like to see how how wrong they get. I like to see where they're getting things wrong, and I don't know how it needs to improve somewhat. Will, I see you raised your hand. I'm going to read what you wrote first. We need to push forward utilizing universal design so closed captioning is included. Yeah, so that's, we've gotten a lot of things with the ADA, like curb cuts and, the ADA has helped us to a certain point, but now the second wave of our rights needs to be pushed forward. So, and, things like closed captioning, things for blind people, just, so they can access better ramps. I think businesses should be held accountable, especially if it's a large corporation. I've been to McDonald's where the bathroom wasn't accessible, and I was like, "What the hell? Oh, I can say, what the hell is this?" So I was just like, McDonald's is they can afford to make their bathrooms accessible. So, I was just like, I don't understand. And then small businesses, I do think we need to, while they are concerned about money, I feel like we need to figure out how the government can assist them in making their brick and mortar places more accessible. And I feel the government needs to step in for that. I don't think we need to put the burden of cost on small business owners for making things accessible. So that's my opinion. Again, my opinion on all this. Will, you raised your hand. Did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for example, we have to work more forward to allow different grants for companies, businesses to increase accessibility, in the work that they do right now. For individuals who are professors in higher education, there's these grants called Teach Access grants that are available for professors who do research and want to include and increase accessibility in their own teaching and research that they want to do. Those, that is one example. And especially if businesses that create or events that happen, the one work that I lean off a lot is of Sins and Valids work, with them having the access committee is a good designated thing for their event, so we can have all multiple modalities of accessibility regardless of your disability, your size, the user's preference. This is something that I now think of a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point, Will. Thanks for sharing that. Jenny, I see you have your hand raised. Please speak. Hmm. Did you want to say something, Jenny? Because I saw you had your hand raised, so I don't. Oh,
Just thanks for flexing with me. I'm interacting with bunches of things like
oh yeah, no problem. I just wanted to
technology.
make sure. I
Um,
wasn't sure what was
One of
going
the things, I don't know where this fits in, but one of the things I want is to discover together how to create ways to access justice through our rights. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it does to me. You know, because the channels don't work. And many times people have to, that's how we gain access, is by creative problem solving, being flexible, you know, being focused on what our needs are, and just stressing on what those needs are, because that's what access is it's based on our needs and where we need to, what path we're headed on. By we, I mean the individual or collectively. It's kind of like, you know, we are representing all of us in that way, because yeah, because we're united by our disability. So yeah, I wanted to just share that because I don't know where that fits in, but thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks. You know, I don't know where the stuff I say fits in. But yeah, you know, I just think sharing these ideas is like, you know, it's a good thing, and hopefully other people here besides just the disabled community. Will said, here it is. I'm not sure what that you mean by that. And Sean says, thank you. And I'm going to say you're welcome. Oh, the teach access. Oh, the link. Thanks. So there's a link. We'll share the link for the teachaccess.org, which is the grants teachers are getting to include accessibility. Is it just in education or just accessibility in general, Will?
It's a lot. Like here on their website, it talks about the tech industry, academia, plus like advocacy, and some of their contributors here and their supporters are actually Google, and Facebook, and even Stanford, the American Federation for the Blind, even Microsoft and Adobe are like some of the partners with this whole teach accessibility thing. And some of their initiatives are faculty grants and study away. It's a lot meant for like higher education purposes, mainly for individuals to actually get to help increase like their programs that they do. And the one thing that I definitely want to be seeing is especially more access in the STEM industry with the professors over there. Like I've talked with a lot of disability service providers from different colleges, like, and they talk about how the lab spaces that an individual needs to utilize aren't as accessible, so it prevents them from taking the STEM based classes. And one individual who's been working tirelessly on this is Dr. Cheryl Bergstaller, who's the head of the IT accessibility division at University of Washington over there with increasing universal design in our STEM fields.
Oh, that's interesting. Thanks, Will, for sharing that. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about that, Will shared the link in the chat, so feel free to explore that, and I will later after this meeting. I'll check that out. But yeah, it would be great to get more things, grants like that, and that sounds like it's more for higher education, which is fantastic because disabled people need, some disabled people want to get into higher education, and that's great. But there's a whole group of people that, I don't know, they don't want to, they just want a job and live a life and get married and have kids and own a house. So, like that kind of equity, we need to figure out how to give disabled people that kind of stuff. It's hard for disabled people can't get married if they're on benefits, because then they lose their benefits. They can't, it's hard to own a house because you don't have the income to own a house. So there's all kinds of things, for disabled people that I feel grants and government assistance and all that kind of stuff needs to come forward. And Marguerite says people can use closed captionings when not understanding the spoken language. Yeah, and closed captioning actually connects people from different countries, not just the deaf or hard of hearing. And yeah, so it just benefits everyone. The closed captioning's not just, like I say, all this accessibility, it's not just, it is for disabled people, it helps us, but it helps everybody, and it helps us all communicate and, I don't know, be on the same page about some stuff. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Marguerite. You want
And it can
Yes.
also be replaced with ASL interpreters.
replace ASL? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, go ahead.
Like,
Okay.
it can be used to replace ASL interpreters.
So do you think, are you saying closed captions can replace ASL interpreters? No, I think you're saying something else. I know.
The other way around.
Oh, ASL. Are you saying ASL, or don't you think maybe we should have both? I mean, I don't know, because I feel some people, go ahead.
No. What I mean is closed caption is more easier than ASL interpreters. But we had a black woman have that different dialogue when it comes to interpreters, because we have our own language. And there in the Black community is different from other language. But the regular interpreters will use the basic of American Sign Language. But if you talk about English, 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 and American Sign Language, I can read both. I can read ASL, and I can also read ASL in English. Some deaf people may not understand the English ASL. I'm done.
Thank you, Marguerite. Okay, Marguerite, my speaker was like kind of fuzzing out, so I had trouble understanding you. I was like trying to turn it down. I was like, gosh, but go ahead,
She was
Vicky.
talking
Yeah.
about how there's different with ASL and sign language in general. There's a lot of different types of sign languages. So if you just put ASL on the screen, those people who don't know ASL but they know a different kind of sign language aren't going to be able to understand you. Whereas with the closed captioning subtitles, as long as you can read the written words, it doesn't matter what sign language you know because you have access with those words.
Thank you, Vicky. Okay, so yeah, so that is true. ASL, I actually, one of my closest friends is a ASL interpreter. So she taught me all about that. I was like, oh, because she's friends with people from Mexico and different countries, and is really she's very into like learning the different languages and stuff. So. But yeah, if you only know American Sign Language, then if someone's doing an event from another country, they're going to probably be using a different type of sign language. But that also goes along. I'm coming from India. I know pretty much all my Indian relatives know how to read English, but you can't make that assumption that everybody knows English. So, the language barrier is always there, whether it's ASL or closed captioning, I guess, so. Excuse me. Will, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one thing definitely like about even especially for like an events purpose of even including ASL, if you're if you want to make some more rally or protest like accessible, like you need to have the sign language interpreters and plan on how you can get sign language interpreters that will want to walk for those events, as well as have different breaks for them staggered, because you have to think like always about the amount of multitasking in your planning with the work that they need to do to make sure that you're not having the same person do it throughout the entire event. That is just one part in the planning process of your event. And this is something that Sins Invalid talks about with your accessible planning practices for protests, events, and walks that go on.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big issue in the community. Like in the last couple of years, I've seen posts about pride celebrations not being accessible and protests and yeah, all that kind of stuff. People don't think about accessibility, and a lot of disabled people have spoken out about that, which is I think is so important for disabled people to speak out, because non-disabled people just don't think about it, and it sucks. But I always say, I don't know, when you're a minority and people don't experience what you do, unfortunately, you have to let them know. But once you let them know, then they can go to Google or whatever and learn more about it. And but it is up to us to kind of let people know about that.
And it's a lot of free emotional labor and capitalism that affects us with providing that information, because they're making us look like we are having to give something for the disabled people, but not every disabled person is the expert on accessibility.
That's true, because a disabled person only knows about their own accessibility. So I see Marguerite and Sean, you've raised your hands. So I'm just gonna, Sean says, yeah, I just learned about the differences. Are you talking about closed captioning and ASL? Is that what you meant? Okay, cool. And Marguerite said English and ASL are different. Yep. ASL is a different language, essentially. I'm going to keep reading. Don't you worry, Marguerite. I'm going to keep reading. I'm not sure what YWO means, but YWO people with ASL event 20 minutes. Oh, are you talking about ASL interpreters? Is that what you mean by YW?
Two people.
Oh, two people. Oh, okay. You meant to write two. Okay. Yeah. So,
two people ASL every 20 minutes. They switch.
and yeah, and most online events that we've seen, Cassie actually had ASL interpreters at her event. There were two ASL interpreters there, and they switched back and forth because yeah, you have to give the interpreter some time to chill. I'll say to chill. Is that too?
No, but
go ahead.
The idea of it is, well, they just take a break from using different sign language, and some people may not know. They get burned out quick.
Yeah, because when you're an ASL interpreter, you're paying attention to a lot of things. You're the communicator for that person that needs the ASL. So you have to pay attention to what they're saying. And then you also have to communicate back to them what other people are saying. And that is a lot of things to have to manage. So it's easy to get burned out. So that's why you need to have more than one ASL interpreter.
Right.
That's going to be longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marguerite, for explaining that. And Sean says, the problem isn't that we don't speak out, we are just being ignored. Yeah, that's true. But Sean, I think you speak out, but I know a lot of disabled people that don't speak out. And I always say, tell them, explain it to them. And they're like, but I don't want to cause trouble and I don't want to make waves. I'm like, no, make waves, because you have the right to make waves because you want to be a part of the world. So yeah, I do think some disabled people speak out, and unfortunately, justice, people just don't want to listen because they want to do things the way they have always done it. So it's a difficult challenge too. So you have that too. Jenny, you have raised your hand. Please speak when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm having a horrible time modulating with Marguerite's audio.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that accessibility can be worked out.
I try to explain what Marguerite is saying, so that's kind of how I'm doing that. I'm
So
not.
partly the volume and just the audio is like, I can't explain it. I can't, like, I have to turn my volume off. It's a valid, I don't have, like, I'm trying, I don't know exactly what to do or what else to say right now, but I guess I'm on the run. Not funny.
Marguerite is gonna, I think she's gonna type. Are you typing something, Marguerite? She says 1 minute. Okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. I have the same issues with the volume. Like I didn't really understand what Marguerite was saying because it was kind of fuzzing out on my speaker. So I'm not sure how to tackle that form of accessibility, but I will think about it and try to figure that out. And thanks for sharing that, Jenny. I appreciate it. And I will think about that. Okay. And I think Marguerite is typing, so I will continue on. So I think we've heard a lot of interesting things here about accessibility. I think the one thing I think we can all agree on is that more work needs to be done. And, like even Jenny was pointing out, she's having accessibility issues with understanding because of the volume of Marguerite's coming in. And so we just have to, work to, as far as the disabled community, we have to work together. But every disability is different. So we can't depend on one disabled person to explain accessibility because disability is different, just like being human is different. Each human doesn't have the same problems as another, and that's the same with disability. So I don't know. I just don't know what else. I don't actually have I don't know. I'm running out of everybody that knows me personally knows how much I love to talk, but I don't really have any other things to say about that. And Marguerite says volume controls needs to figure out on their computer or her computer. Is that what you're saying? So yeah, we need, I mean, it was coming in loud for me, so I was actually turning down the volume on my computer. It's because it's an online thing, it's hard to control the accessibility for that. And Sean said, or maybe get a better mic. So yeah, there's like different things individuals have to do to create accessibility for that type of thing. So, and devices. And that's what Marguerite says. So yeah, unfortunately, everybody has different internets, different devices, different dependability on these devices. So it's hard to create an accessibility for things like that. So we'll just keep trying. Any other comments about accessibility? Should we just do a wrap up here? Since Cassie, I asked you to be on the panel, please, if you have anything you'd like to sum up this conversation with, please share.
I mean, I've just been really interested listening to all of you share your experiences and thinking more about, like, I don't know, I think the conversation about how captions truly are universal design is something that I'm really taking away from this. Obviously, I knew they were important. I always, like Priya was saying, I use them when I watch anything, even though I don't need them, it's still helpful. And yeah, I don't know. I just think too, like thinking about, yeah, different languages and just how technology can bring us together. And I'm personally very thankful for how much technology has improved over the past year, especially. And I just hope that people don't just like leave it all behind. And I hope that it's integrated into new normal because we don't need the old normal anyway.
Very true, Cassie. Marguerite says she's sorry about that, Jenny, that you had trouble understanding her. So she wanted to let you know that. But yeah, that's kind of the thing I'm hearing from a lot of disabled people is like, I don't know, I kind of got depressed the other day because like, I don't know, like some local band was playing and I was just like thinking, oh no, it's opening up and we're going to go back to exactly the things were before. So I actually kind of got a little sad, but I got over it. But I think it's a fear a lot of people in the disabled community have that we were so included during the pandemic. So the pandemic was actually a really great time for disabled people, besides worrying about your health and stuff like that. That was like a scary part of it. But the positive thing we took out of it is that we can be included. And what we've noticed is when other people couldn't get into the world, they were accommodated very quickly by corporations, by government, by all these things. So what the pandemic has taught us, people can be accommodated. And all these excuses that are being given by employers, by venue owners, by all these things that are like, oh, it's too expensive, we can't accommodate you. We can be like, well, during the pandemic, you didn't have trouble accommodating people. So yeah, and granted, people were also making money off of accommodating people during the pandemic, but at the same time, they were able to do it. So the excuses are not valid, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to say about this. Oh, Marguerite, I see you said, now, yes, we need to fight hard to make them understand. Exactly. So when we get back into the new normal, I feel as disabled people, we need to be really pay attention to what people start doing when things open up and speak out about it as much as we can. And hopefully people will, I think we'll have allies that will see that and work to accommodate us, but the non-allies is what we have to work on. So that's my opinion. Marguerite says, speak up and rise up. Exactly. That's how any minority in the world has gotten their rights. They speak up and rise up, and that's how it will happen for the disabled community. And we are doing it. It's not that we aren't doing it. We have the patience. I told Sean says he isn't patient, but I don't disagree, Sean. I think you are patient because you are disabled and you're nonverbal and you have to figure out how to make your place in the world. So you are patient, even though you say you're not. And so, yeah, we have to be patient about our justice. Like, when we explain something and it doesn't immediately change, let ourselves feel bummed out about it and upset about it because we are human after all, but don't linger in that moment of being angry, upset, get back to the joyful moments and then be like, hey, and you need to include me. You like my presence here? Well, guess what? This is what you need to do to have me here. And I don't know what you said, Marguerite. Okay, so, Sean says, and the app Clubhouse is very inaccessible. Yes, I don't use Clubhouse. I think I've only been on it once, so I don't even know. I'm not, I don't know. I don't like to use a lot of social media stuff. So but I have heard that they don't have captioning for that, correct? Is that correct, Sean? And so yeah, like all these, so here's like an example of a technology that I believe started during the pandemic, because I had never really heard of Clubhouse before. And they didn't think about accessibility. And that it's unforgivable, because the ADA passed 31 years ago. Anyone that builds a house or builds anything in this certain time, the ADA is always, architects and builders are like, okay, this is what the ADA rules are for how wide the doors need to be, what has to happen in a bathroom. So for a app like Clubhouse not to think about captioning, I feel it's a little unforgivable, and they need to rectify that.
Social media
ASAP.
is not covered under the ADA at all. Nothing on the internet is actually covered by the ADA unless it is a federal, local, or state government. Those are the only sites that mandatorily have to be. No social media does. So Clubhouse, while it's garbage that they did an audio only platform with no accessibility features, unfortunately, it's completely legal for them to do that.
Yeah, so it is legal for them to do that, but guess what? More people might use it if they actually made it accessible. So business-wise, business planning, they should like think about that, because it makes them more money to make something accessible. So, and Marguerite says, don't have patience. Some people on the phone don't have patience. Is that what you're saying, Marguerite? Okay, cool. Yes. Okay, and then Sean says, or chat boxes. Yeah. And Margaret says, yes, Sean, you are right. So yeah, people, I always tell people patience is like really a trait we have to learn. And people tend not to be very, I don't know. I just feel like we're in this world where we're like, okay, let's get this done. Let's go to the next thing. Let's get this done. Let's go to the next thing. And I feel, not even for just disabled people, for humanity in general, I feel like we need to pull back from that kind of mentality where we're not thinking about waiting for someone to understand or waiting for someone to be able to speak what they need to say. So I think, yeah, that's my idea. I love having Vicky, because she is like my go-to person about the legality, accessibility, but I like to focus on what the community can do. So like I like to know the legality, just for my own knowledge of what I have the right to and what I don't have the right to. And I just feel like where the law falls short, we need to really implore our communities to adhere to the disability community, because we are part of the community and we can contribute to it just like everyone else. So, and Sean, and when people, yes, Sean, when people don't want to, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Marguerite. People don't want to. I'm talking so much, so I lost track of that conversation. But you're going to write it. Are you going to write some more? Or okay, yeah, I'm waiting. I'm being patient. I'm being patient, Marguerite. Jenny, go ahead. You see your hand is up while Marguerite writes. Please go ahead and speak.
Hi, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Is it that social media, what was the part that was illegal on the World Wide Web? I wanted to just hear that again, or get a little clarification.
Vicky said that
because
social.
I know that there's some standardization going on. I mean, outside.
Well,
of,
Vicky, why don't you answer that?
It's just government. It's only government.
Correct, Jenny. It's the only people who are legally required to make their websites fully accessible are state, local, and federal government. Theoretically, places of public accommodation should also, since they are beholden to the ADA in person, whether or not that's reality, that their websites are actually accessible, is a whole nother story. And I see Marguerite's response: if you're receiving funds, if you're receiving any government funds, you are also required to make it accessible, but that does not always extend to the websites. The internet, the web is the least
Marguerite.
regulated for accessibility purposes because the law is like 6 decades
What was that part about
behind.
regulated?
So
Sorry, what was?
so sorry.
I'm sorry.
What?
Sorry about that, Jenny.
Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Vicky. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I know Jenny had a question in there.
The part where you said regulated, I just missed a little bit right in that.
Yeah, so the internet itself is not regulated for accessibility purposes. The state, local, and federal governments are the only groups that are supposed to legally be fully accessible. There are companies that take it upon themselves to make their websites accessible because they know the business model aspect of it is more important. But there is not, when it comes to social media, there is not any legal requirement for those to be accessible.
Did you have any other questions, Jenny, or?
Yeah, a couple comments. I was just taking that in.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't carry over to all public domains where it comes to the World Wide Web. But whereas it would if it was offline, where it would apply offline.
Yeah, so let's take McDonald's for an example.
Yeah.
Because they're a place of public accommodation, they are required to be physically accessible to the disabled community. But on their website specifically, there is no law that says this website must be accessible.
They're not accessible
should be.
either. Yeah.
What? I'm so sorry.
Right.
Did you say they are not accessible? the
Well, yeah, they're
websites?
not. No, I'm just saying they're out there. Their building is not accessible either. So.
Yeah, they're legally required to be accessible. Whether or not they are is a whole other story.
Right. Julie,
I
Vicky, you think a lot. Man, when it comes to the ADA law,
okay. I wanted to say one more thing, but I'm going to mute it because I'm having a lot of
I'm
problems.
Okay.
Daddy, I may not be a lawyer, but I did my research.
Yeah, so Marguerite say, I may not be a lawyer, but I've done my research, and I think she was thanking Vicky for the information. And oh God, I was gonna say something. I just totally forgot. Jenny, did you wanna, I think you had another question. Did you wanna do that, or? You can send me an emoji or thumbs up, thumbs down, or whatever, however you want to communicate. Okay, so I'm sorry, Jenny, if I don't mean to not have you speak. So just let me know if you raise your hand or something if you want to talk. So yeah, I think I see 2 messages. So yeah, I think what we've learned is the internet is not required to be ADA compliant. There are no laws because the ADA, the internet didn't exist when the ADA was passed. So yeah, that's another area we need to push forward. Besides physical accessibility, online accessibility is super important and so easy. It's not going to cost a company that much extra money to make websites and all these things accessible. So, oh, do you need to go feed Scarlett Facebook is automatic on closed captioning. Is that what you said? Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I don't use Facebook.
Facebook and Instagram do have automatic closed captioning.
Oh, automatic. Yeah. Okay.
Facebook and Instagram both now have automatic alt text on your posts as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Marguerite. And Sean says, oh, yes.
They started about 3 months ago. Facebook started it 3 months ago.
Okay, so Facebook started their closed captioning 3 months ago. And Sean said it will be expensive. I'm a web designer. It's expensive to have websites updated. Yeah, that's true. But, you know, corporations can afford to update their websites. And, you know, I'm just talking about when you're building up something from scratch to create something. If you think about accessibility, then the cost is not a lot in that moment. So, okay, I don't know. I actually don't have anything else to say. I mean, I could probably do, but I can't think of anything right now. So, if anyone has anything they want to say, please raise your hand, and because I want to give everyone a chance to speak if they want to. Okay, I don't know. Thank you, Jenny. I I would give you a heart back. I don't know how to do the emojis on here, but heart back to you, Jenny. Thank you so much for joining us. Even though I wrote the wrong date in the email. Thank you so much for writing me and letting me know that my copy and pasting was inefficient. So thank you so much for saying that. All right, everyone, unless anyone has anything else to say about accessibility, I mean, I think this could be like an hours long conversation, but, you know, I just wanted to have a
That's
little.
not, yeah, that's not a fair characterization. I just didn't know when and where.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Yeah,
you.
that's all I just didn't know when or where. So I'm not sure that's a fair characterization.
Oh, I'm not sure what you were talking about. You'll
Okay.
have to explain that to me.
Whatever you were talking about.
Oh, I was just wrapping things up. So I was just asking anyone if they wanted to speak to do it now. And I just knew you were talking and Marguerite kind of talked. And so I just wanted to give you a chance to speak if you had something to say. But I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna end this meeting. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate everyone's participation. And yeah, have a great day, everyone. And till next time. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.